My name is Kay, and I'm a compulsive overeater, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life today. And I weigh and measure 3 meals off the gray sheet, write them down, call them into my sponsor, and don't eat in between no matter what. And through God's grace, I've been able to do that since May the 30th, 1981. I just kind of told some stories. I wrote it out to make sure I'd have 15 minutes. My first abstinent holiday was in the summer of 1981, so right after I got abstinent. We went to a cabin in the piney woods of East Texas. I planned and packed every bite of abstinent food I was going to eat for that week and carried it in a cooler that would have been more appropriate for a Boy Scout troop. It was as if I thought they didn't have any grocery stores in Tyler, Texas. On this holiday, in this rustic cabin, before the days of cell phones, I made my daily phone call to my sponsor outside on an old public payphone mounted on a pole, fighting with the mosquitoes, going to any lengths. My first abstinent Thanksgiving with my parents and siblings came after I'd been abstinent for 6 months and had lost all the weight I needed to lose. I still remember all their comments. Surely you can get off of this diet just for this once. Surely you can take just one bite. And another one, I have been fasting so I can eat all I want today. I had brought full backup just in case, but I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of. It was so uncomfortable to ask the questions we have to ask. What is in this? What is on that? I had to ask different people because it was potluck. And then I couldn't get a straight answer from one of my brothers, who seemed to think his was a secret recipe. I ended up calling my sponsor to ask if I could have one of the ingredients in the dish he brought. My memories of that Thanksgiving are still very uncomfortable. I found it difficult to be seen as different. And yet the truth is, by being abstinent, I was different than my siblings, who, though younger than me, have all died from various effects of this disease. As the years went on and I was still abstinent, my parents and siblings accepted what I do, but never understood it. Family Thanksgivings and Christmases were more comfortable. I remember in those early OA meetings before GSA was formed that I was told it would be best not to go to family celebrations if your abstinence is new and if you feel it's threatened. I heard people say that if your abstinence feels threatened, leave the family celebration. I heard about stepping into another room to call a GreySheeter for support. I never had to do these things, but some people I knew did. This disease is a matter of life and death. My beloved husband, Joe, died of brain cancer in 2010. During our 40 years of marriage, we celebrated our wedding anniversary, December 27th, by going to bed and breakfast places and staying 2 or 3 nights. We always bought a Christmas decoration in these little Texas towns, marked down to half price. And after I was abstinent, I had to make sure that the breakfast provided could meet my needs. We also had the tradition of buying the Christmas tree and decorating it on the Sunday nearest to my birthday, December 15th. Coming up soon, I will be 79 years old. I am so fortunate that our children and their families continue this tradition to this day. It is so comforting to bring out the ornaments purchased on our anniversary trips, the ornaments made lovingly by our children when they were little. All the memories contained in these ornaments. My children make non-abstinent snacks to enjoy, and I have lots of decaf coffee and tea. My husband was always supportive of my abstinence. He would literally go to any lengths to help me find the food that I need on our vacations and holidays. I remember driving for miles and miles in Canada where there were no billboards advertising what stores or restaurants were coming up, and having to go into the little towns and into the shops asking for this food I needed. My children were ages 6 and 9 when I got abstinent. They accepted that this was what I needed to do with food and have been very supportive. My daughters are now 44 and 47. We have spent many Thanksgivings and Christmases together. They have both become good cooks. We have passed through different phases in our Thanksgiving celebrations. There were days when I cooked the big protein. Kat and CJ prepared fancy, complicated side dishes out of Cooking Light magazines and gourmet, whatever, but always put some aside for me before covering it with sauce. We spent hours in the kitchen. We have now progressed to ordering the food, always making sure that it is abstinent and doing as little cooking as possible. It is a great joy to have an abstinent meal with my family. Another aspect of the holidays is that of holiday parties. My first abstinent holiday party, I stood as far away from the buffet table as I could get. I stood next to the piano and spent the party singing Christmas carols. But these days, I can go to holiday parties and not be called to the food at all. What a gift of gray sheet abstinence. I can bring my weighed and measured food to the party. I can choose to eat before the party or after the party. I can ask all the questions we ask about the food and measure my food at the party. It depends on the time of the party and on which group of friends will be there. Eating in restaurants during the holidays is always a challenge. I call ahead and bring plenty of backup. And now I can look online and see what their menu is. And I ask all those questions. What do you put on the protein and the vegetable? What spices? What fats? How do you prepare it? What is in your garden salad? I ask for an empty plate with my food for ease of measuring. My family helps. One time, in spite of all my instructions, the protein came with sauce all over it. Everyone at the table said in chorus, "No sauce." That server was very surprised. As many of you know, I was in the convent. I was a nun. During that time of my life, I achieved my highest weight. One experience I had in the convent having to do with Christmas was the practice we had of singing at midnight mass. In my memory, we sang like angels. When the service was over, sometime between 1:30 or 2 a.m., we went to the dining room for a lovely feast. When I was younger and went to midnight mass, I don't go any longer, I don't stay up that late. It was very difficult for me to go to the after midnight mass gatherings and not eat. In times like that, I made up a prayer that I say often. Thank you, God, that I know what I do with my food. One piece of advice that I was given has proved to be very valuable. Don't go without all that you need for measuring your food and without complete backup. When traveling, bring at least 2 complete meals. Once I was on a flight during the holidays, planning to land in Dallas with plenty of time for supper. A storm came up over Dallas, causing us to fly around looking for somewhere to refuel. The plane circled and finally flew back to Chicago to refuel. We were not allowed to leave the plane. I had backup protein and backup vegetable, but no salad, and this was in the days before flexing. When we finally landed in Dallas, it was so late that the only restaurant open was McDonald's, and I was able to get salad there just before it closed. One way to plan, prepare, and protect my abstinence is to keep in close contact with my community by going to meetings. I need that contact because when I have been away on holidays without meetings, I begin to feel isolated. I begin to feel that I am the only person doing this food plan. I look at the people around me in restaurants and think, well, they don't have any problems with food. Thoughts arise like, oh, maybe I can just let this go during the holidays and get back to it. I need those meetings to remind me that getting back to your abstinence after losing it is more difficult than getting abstinent in the first place. People who come back after time away tell me there is nothing else out there that works for them like gray sheet abstinence. I need to hear that message. Another way I have protected my abstinence is by doing service. When I got my first computer, a Commodore 64, I decided that I could practice using the word processor by typing notes that I took at our Saturday gray sheet meetings and sending them out to Lindy, a gray sheeter who had moved away from Austin. I printed out my notes on my dot matrix printer and sent them in the snail mail to Lindy. Others found out about my letters to Lindy and asked me to send them a copy each week. After 8 months, I was sending out 7 copies weekly. Since then, I have made a little book out of it and given it to people. Here is a quote from Letters to Lindy from November 24th, 1984. I hope I am weighing and measuring my food for the rest of my life. A friend of mine calls Thanksgiving Amateur Day, when everyone else tries to act like a compulsive overeater. The difference is that those who are not compulsive overeaters can stop overeating. I know that I can't stop overeating without God's help, without the help of this program, and without the help of all of you who support my abstinence with yours. And thank you so much for being here.